Let's penultimate topic here. Let's jump on the Lions very, very quickly. I know we talked about the Vikings, so just quickly on the Lions. The thing that really surprises me, Mark, is they have been fun to watch this year in the offense. They're putting points up for fun in some games, apart from a game against the Patriots and a game against the Cowboys in a 2 week spell there. They should have beat the Bills on Thanksgiving. They have a statement defensive performance and, frankly, a very good defensive performance last week against the Jaguars. They've really turned a corner. And, you had people week 7, week 8 calling for Dan Campbell to go at the end of the season. This is a guy that cares about his team, deserves time, and, in my opinion, should be there next season. I'm really looking forward to this game on Sunday with the Lions and Vikings.
Yeah, so a few weeks back, we kind of had touched on this topic of which of these teams that isn't going to this playoffs is going to cause a few upsets. And at the time, we thought it was Chicago because of Justin Fields, or Atlanta just because of the way that Drake London and Kyle Pitts were kind of coming out. It was the Detroit Lions, and I think everyone had a feel good vibe around Detroit, but they weren't finishing games, and they needed to learn how to win. And I think they did that. It was Green Bay was the turning point. It was about a month ago now. So what's that? Five weeks ago. So when they got that, they learned how to win. Then they went in. I think they beat Chicago the next week. They beat the Giants after that. They went so close on Thanksgiving to almost beating the Buffalo Bills, and they obviously beat the Jaguars over the weekend. And I think, to me, it was this whole thing that they almost had those upsets. But let's remember at the start of the season as well, Philadelphia, they almost pulled it off against Philadelphia. They had a really high scoring game and the defense wasn't able to keep up. So I think that they have been there, but now they're able to turn the top. I mean, who had Jamal Williams having 14 touchdowns through the year? I know DeAndre Swift got a bit injured, but they're I think they're really frisky. I don't have. Oh yeah, sorry. So the next 2 games are the Vikings and the Jets, and it's like the Lions themselves can't go to the playoffs, but they can definitely affect who's going to be going to the playoffs, because the likes of the Jets now can't, like, they're made with their defense and they're going to be going against a high powered offense like that. Look, we saw what happened last week with the Minnesota Vikings, that they were able to touch that to New York Jets defense. So Detroit would get a lot of hope from that. Dan Campbell's passion was worth so much, but we didn't think it was worth enough to keep him in a job a few weeks ago. I think they absolutely have something now in Detroit.
I fully agree with what Mark's saying, Michaela. It's a really interesting time for Detroit, because if they're not going to go to the playoffs, they need to use these next 4 or 5 final games to their advantage. You've got 9 months to prepare from then, and unfortunately, we're probably not going to see them in Hard Knocks next year.
No, I have to say I really like the Lions. I think they're my favorite underdog team. You look at they obviously didn't start. No one expected anything from them, and they think they've surprised a few people by the way they played. And I have to say, I like Jared Goff at quarterback for them. I think he's a good leader, and if you look at the stats, he is over 3,000 throwing yards, which I think is 7th amongst quarterbacks. He's 19 touchdowns, only 7 interceptions, and I think he's the 6th highest QBR in the league, like 6, and he's behind Geno Smith, he's behind Jalen Hurts, Mahomes. So he's a good quarterback. I think he's a little bit above average, but I like him, and I know the Lions have I think they'll have a top 5 pick from the Rams probably in the draft, and they also have the 15th pick, so they can do a lot of stuff with that. I don't think they should draft a quarterback. I think they could probably use the needs somewhere else. I think Jared Goff is very good, and I think he can actually do something for them. But yeah, they're just such a fun team to watch. They can be really explosive. They can cause some upsets. But I don't think they'll beat the Vikings this week. It could be a close game, maybe only a couple of points in the difference. I think they'll definitely probably beat the Jets and make the Jets struggle for their playoff place even. But I think it's telling that they're favorites against the Vikings. How are the Lions favorites against the Vikings? They're 5-7, and the Vikings are 10-2. Is that a discredit to the Vikings, or is that credit to the Lions? You have to wonder. And I think it's a bit of I think it's a bit both to say a 10-2 team shouldn't be really beaten by a 5-7 team, but the Lions are just so good and fun to watch, and they can clearly score points. Jared Goff can put a lot of points on the board, so I think they're the team to watch next year. I think they can be really, really exciting.